you'll hear the scariest stories from Reddit this week. Note that the last story is The Spare Key 4, the finale. Get comfortable. We're starting. Don't answer. I survived a blizzard in a tent, and something out there was learning to speak in my voice. The forecast promised light snowfall. Those exact words made me throw my pack in the trunk, like I was catching the last quiet weekend before something changed. Light snowfall. By the time I reached the trailhead, the world was already turning white. Not a blizzard yet. Just thick snow and wind that kept shifting direction. The kind of weather where you still hear your boots crunch and keep telling yourself you have everything under control. I signed the hiker's log. The pen barely worked, and my handwriting through the gloves looked like a child's scrawl. There was another name below mine. Signed that morning. No note, no back by sunset, nothing. Just a name and a time that no longer mattered. Half a kilometer in, I started, doubting myself, not from fear, but because every tree looked the same. Snow swallows landmarks, trail markers disappear, footprints turn to impressions, then to nothing. The world shrinks to whatever your headlamp lights up, and I hadn't even turned it on yet, but I kept going, because once I decide something, I drag it behind me like a bad decision on a leash. I picked my campsite the way I always do. Not in a hollow, not under dead branches, not near water. A slightly elevated patch, a couple of thick trunks for windbreak, nothing special. Just a spot that felt like it would survive until morning. Setting up a tent in snow is always awkward. I stomped the ground flat, dug a shallow trench around the edges, anchored the guy lines with buried sticks. The stakes wouldn't go into the frozen ground. My fingers ached, but I kept telling myself it was fine. Warm sleeping bag, stove, chemical hand warmers. Everything was supposed to be simple, just cold. But while I worked, the forest started acting strange. It went quiet. Not the usual snow quiet. The kind where you suddenly realize you haven't heard a bird or a squirrel in a long time. Just wind and the soft hiss of snow against the tent fabric. I actually stopped and listened at one point, like I was waiting for someone to cough behind a tree. Nothing. I set up the tent and went looking for firewood. Not for drama. Fire just makes darkness feel less personal. That's when I saw the tracks, not mine. Mine were wide, boot-shaped. These were long and narrow, like someone dragging a shovel handle forward. A single line of impressions, spaced too far apart for a walking person. I followed them without thinking. 10 steps, 20. They ran straight between the pines and ended abruptly on a wind-scoured patch of hard crust near a rock. No turn, no return track. I stood there staring until the snow started filling them in. Then I heard it behind me. Not footsteps, a slow dragging sound, like someone pulling a heavy sack across the crust. I spun around. Nothing. Just light between the trees, my own breath, and my tracks back to camp. The sound stopped the moment I turned. I did the thing you're not supposed to do. Hey! My voice sounded wrong out there. Alien. No answer. I told myself it was a branch, a deer, a log shifted by a wind. Then I noticed something else. Those tracks weren't centered like a person's, and they weren't parallel like skis. It was as if whatever made them was leaning, like one side of its body was heavier. I went back to camp, built a fire, ate ramen standing up out of a mug. Sitting in snow is a fast reminder of why warmth matters. I kept glancing over my shoulder, not because I saw anything, but because my brain insisted. The snow intensified. Now it was hitting sideways. Visibility dropped until the fire was an island, and everything else was a wall. I crawled into the tent early because outside had started feeling like something was watching me through frosted glass. Inside was cramped and noisy. The fabric rustled, the sleeping pads squeaked. I stripped off the wet layers, checked my phone. No signal, battery dying. I lay there and listened. Wind, snow, then the dragging again. Somewhere between the trees. Drag, pause, drag. I held my breath. The sound was getting closer, slowly, patiently. I sat up and turned on my headlamp. The tent turned into a bright aquarium. I stared at the fabric like I could see through it. Drag, pause, and then something touched the tent. Not a gust of wind, pressure. Deliberate pressure like a palm pressed flat against the fabric. The tent wall bowed inward and stayed there. I didn't move. My body just locked up. The pressure slid along the seam and stopped at the zipper. I grabbed my knife, small, camping knife. It looked ridiculous in my hand. Someone tugged at the door panel, not the zipper, the fabric itself, like they were feeling for something to grip. I lunged and pressed both hands against the door from inside. For a second there was real resistance. Then it was gone. Silence. I sat in the lamplight and waited. Nothing. I switched to red light and cracked the zipper a few inches. Snow bit at my face. I saw tracks. Fresh ones, those same long, dragging impressions right up against the entrance. And beside them, thin lines like claws scratching the snow. They didn't lead away. They circled the tent. I yanked the zipper shut, and then I heard it. A voice. Not a word, not a sentence. An attempt. Quiet at first, then closer, and then right outside. The voice was wrong, like something that had listened to humans from a distance and decided it could do it too. The tent bowed inward again. This time it pressed in like a face. I could see the shape of it, an oval, hints of eyes, a mouth. The mouth moved. Cold, it said with something like a rasping laugh. You're cold. I kicked it where the head would be. The shape vanished. Outside there was a sound like tearing wet fabric, then fast dragging in circles, getting faster. I grabbed my car keys, the only solid thing I had left. I pulled on my boots, shoved things into the pack. One thought, the car. I burst out of the tent. Snow blinded me. The wind knocked me sideways. Something was moving behind me. At a run now. It slammed into the tent and it collapsed like a crushed can. Something grabbed my backpack, hard. I caught a glimpse of it. It was long, too pale, like packed snow shaped vaguely right. Its limbs bent the wrong way, and its face was like a mask that didn't fit. "Hey," it said. I dropped the pack and ran. I could hear claws clicking on the hard crust. I fell, hit my head, but saw the trailhead sign, the car. I threw myself inside, slammed the door. A thud. The car rocked. It was on the hood, a face pressed against the windshield. "You're cold," it said. I hit the horn. It recoiled. The engine started on the fourth try. I drove. In the mirror, I could see it standing there, practicing how to wave. "Hey," it said one last time. It almost sounded right. I don't camp in the woods anymore. Work by the sea, on eating shrimp or what I thought were shrimp. I've always lived by routine. Up at 5:30 a.m., coffee so strong it ate through my stomach lining. Then the drive to whatever dead-end job would have me, as long as the checks cleared. For the past 6 months, I'd been working for a company called Usha Delicious, in a massive warehouse on the edge of Port Haven, a foggy coastal town in Maine. Everything here smelled like salt and rot. My job title was peculiar: quality tester, shrimp. In plain terms, my job was to eat shrimp, or as I later discovered, not quite shrimp. The listing had seemed harmless enough. No experience required. Good pay. Strong stomach essential. No seafood allergies. I had nothing to lose. After getting laid off from the cannery, money was running out fast. The interview lasted 5 minutes. A tired HR woman named Marlene slid a form across the desk and said, "Sign here, and you're hired." Her voice had the quality of someone who'd said that sentence 1,000 times. The warehouse was enormous. Conveyor belts, freezers, the hum of machinery. My workstation was in a separate room, the tasting lab. White walls, bright lights, a metal table, stools, and a mirror that always made me feel like someone was watching from the other side. The process was simple. A small hatch in the wall would open, and a tray would slide out with 10 to 15 clean shrimp, sometimes raw, sometimes cooked. I'd eat them one at a time and log notes on a tablet. Too salty, flag it. Rubbery, flag it. Strange aftertaste, flag it. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, $25 an hour. A luxury for Port Haven. The first week, I actually enjoyed it. The shrimp were excellent. Plump, fresh, with a clean ocean flavor. I wrote enthusiastic reports and started dreaming of endless plates of them. Then, around week 3, things got strange. First, it was the texture. Some were too fibrous, like something was woven through them. I noted it as over-processing. The next day, a shrimp twitched in my fingers, just barely. I blamed nerves, but the doubt had arrived. Marlene's voice through the intercom. New deep water shipment. Super fresh. Deep water shrimp in our shallow coastal waters. That didn't sit right. The anomalies multiplied. Some shrimp shimmered with iridescent color like an oil slick. Others had a metallic taste. After shifts, I had splitting headaches. At home, I felt like something was crawling just beneath the skin. I dreamed I was at the bottom of an ocean trench, surrounded by glowing, many-limbed creatures. One attached itself to me. I woke with an itch in my palm. The shrimp kept getting larger. They were warm. Something inside pulsed. The taste was overwhelming in a way that wasn't good anymore. I filed reports. No response. My body was changing. Skin gone pale, veins rising. In wavering lines, a whisper in my ears. My reflection in mirrors seemed slightly wrong. Some shrimp had protrusions like rudimentary limbs. Others had what I can only describe as small eyes that, I swear, tracked me. I tried to quit. Marlene smiled and handed me a stuffed envelope. "You're our best employee." I took the money. Bills don't pay themselves. That night, something moved under the skin of my forearm. I watched it happen. I started taking samples home. Under a magnifying glass, it was unmistakable. These weren't shrimp. Segments, joints, mandibles, larvae of something enormous. I read forums, leaked reports, marine biologists' papers about creatures that mimic known species, about parasites that rewrite a host from the inside out. My eyes changed. They developed an iridescent shimmer. One day, the tray didn't come out. Instead, a voice, deep, compressive, like pressure at depth. Adaptation complete. Integration successful. The mirror was gone. Beyond the wall, there was nothing, just a void. I looked at my hands. The skin had opened like a carapace. Beneath it, something segmented, pale, and not mine. The tray reappeared, empty. An invitation. I understood then. My job was never to test the shrimp. My job was to become a vessel, to carry them further onto dry land. The whisper became clear. The tide always returns. You are the bridge. And I stepped forward. There's a new stool in the lab now, a new tablet, a new employee arriving soon, and I'm lying on the tray, waiting to be tasted. The spare key, finale. I called my mom while I was still standing on the side of the road. She answered the way she always did, like she'd been holding the phone in her hands. waiting for it to ring. "Hi," she said carefully. "Are you okay?" I stared at the empty stretch of road ahead of me. The headlights lit nothing but darkness. "No," I said, "but I will be." A pause. "What do you mean?" "I'm done running," I said. "I'm not gonna wait for him to decide what happens next." I heard her breathing change immediately. "What are you talking about?" "I'm going to end this," I said. "Tonight." Silence. "End it? How?" she asked quietly. "He told me where to go," I said. "He wants me there." Another pause. Longer this time. "Where?" she asked. "The house I grew up in," I said. "Empty for years. The house he talked about like it still belonged to him." She exhaled sharply. "Oh God," she whispered. "You don't have to." "Listen to me," I cut her off. "I'm not asking permission. I just need you to know where I am." She kept talking, begging me to wait, urging me to call the police again, offering to come with me. "I love you," I said. It felt important to say it out loud. Her voice cracked. "I love you too." I ended the call before she could say anything else, anything that might have made me turn around. When I arrived, the balloons were already there, bright red, blue, and yellow, tied neatly to the mailbox like someone had taken care to keep them from blowing away. They swayed gently, looking cheerful and completely wrong. Every light in the house was on. I stood across the street for a long time, engine idling, trying to convince myself that if I waited a little longer, something would change. Nothing changed. The front door was unlocked. The living room looked like a party supply store had detonated inside it. Streamers hung from the ceiling, balloons crowded the corners, confetti covered the floor, undisturbed like it had been scattered hours ago and then abandoned. In the center of the room stood the dining table, pulled out from the wall. 2 place settings, 2 glasses, and a cake. White frosting, blue trim. Candles already in place, my name written neatly across the top. My hand moved toward my phone before I'd even thought about it. I pressed record without looking at the screen. The camera opened, froze, flickered once, and went completely black. Not off. Dead. I pressed the power button. Nothing. Held it down. Nothing. A slow panic began climbing my spine. "That won't work," said a voice behind me. I turned around. He was standing at the hallway entrance, fully lit, in uniform, dark navy, badge gleaming under the lamplight, holster, belt, shoulder radio, everything in place, like it all belonged there. Seeing him in uniform in that house felt physically wrong. "When you've been in the job long enough," he said calmly, "you learn certain tricks." He glanced at my phone. "Put it down. You don't need it." I didn't move. He sighed, slow, patient. "You were always stubborn," he said. "Sit down." I looked at the chair across from the cake. "I just wanted a real celebration," he continued, stepping closer. "So many years I missed. I thought we could do this right." His hand drifted near the holster. The gun appeared in an instant, already aimed at me. I went still. He watched my reaction. Then he slowly set the gun down on the table between us. That gesture frightened me more than the weapon itself. "Sit down," he said again. I sat. He struck a match and lit a candle. The flame bent and steadied. "Go ahead," he said. "Make a wish." My hands were shaking. "Why?" I asked. "Why me?" His face softened, like I'd finally asked the right question. "It's simple," he said. "You needed guidance. Your father was a terrible influence, unstable, violent. My job was to protect you, keep you on the right path." He tilted his head slightly. "And sometimes," he added, "protection means eliminating the problem." My stomach turned. "I miss so many birthdays," he said. I thought we could make up for lost time." He reached under the table. "Your gift," he said almost cheerfully. He slid a neatly wrapped box toward me with a blue ribbon on top. "Open it." I didn't want to touch it. "Open it," he repeated. My fingers were numb as I lifted the lid. Inside, photographs. Hundreds of them. Me at different ages. Schools, yards, streets I barely remembered. Copies of every birthday card. Police reports. Domestic violence calls. With neat annotations in the margins. One photo I recognized immediately. I'm 7 years old, standing on the driveway with a bicycle. The exact day my mom said someone must have forgotten to sign the card. I had never seen that photo before. "I wanted to keep all of this," he said as I leafed through. "And I wanted you to remember too." My throat tightened. "From the very beginning," he continued. "The first card, watching you grow up. I was so proud of you." Something inside me broke. I stood and threw the box at him. Photographs exploded across the room. I lunged forward. He was faster. We crashed into the table. The cake fell. The frosting smeared across the carpet. I reached for the gun. He hit me and shoved me back. He was on top of me in an instant. His weight drove the air from my lungs. Blows came in. Controlled at first, then increasingly savage. Ungrateful, he was screaming, hitting me again and again. "After everything I did for you." Stars burst across my vision. I tasted blood. He was sitting on my chest, raising his fist. A gunshot tore through the room. The weight disappeared from my chest. His body jerked. A second shot. Something warm splattered against my shirt. He toppled off me and hit the floor with a dull, unreal thud. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, ears ringing. My lungs worked in shallow, desperate pulls, like they weren't sure they were allowed to breathe. Then I turned my head. Blood was spreading fast through his uniform, saturating the fabric around the badge. His mouth opened and closed silently. His breathing was ragged, torn. And then I saw her. My mom was standing in the doorway, the gun in both hands, arms locked straight, like she was afraid they'd start moving on their own. Her face was white. Her eyes were somewhere far away. We looked at each other. Nobody spoke. The only sound was his labored breathing. I got up and walked to her. I carefully took the gun before it fell from her hands. I held her and she went limp against my chest. "I'm sorry," she kept whispering. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Behind us, he gurgled. His hand jerked and reached weakly toward his shoulder. His fingers grazed the radio. Missed. Tried again. He pressed the button. "Officer down," he rasped. "I've been shot." The words came out automatic, rehearsed. A moment later, the windows flooded red and blue. Sirens. I told my mom to breathe. Stay calm. Don't run. I wanted this to be over. The door burst open. The house filled with noise. Boots, crackling radios, sharp overlapping voices. Someone grabbed my arm and pulled me away. I stumbled. My clothes were covered in frosting and blood. Hands where I can see them. I complied without thinking. My mom tried to turn toward me to say my name. Another officer stepped between us and led her away. I heard the handcuffs before I saw them. That sound hit harder than the gunshots. "It's okay," I said. "I don't know who I meant it for." She nodded, crying silently as they walked her past me. I was put on the couch and asked questions I could barely process. Name. Are you injured? Are there other weapons? I answered on autopilot. I watched them work on him. His shoulder radio crackled when they started compressions. At the station, we told everything exactly as it happened. My mom admitted she fired to save my life. They released me. They didn't release her. He died before dawn. That was a few days ago. The house is still sealed off. My mom is still waiting for a court date. On paper, no recorded threats, no documented history, just a dead police officer and a woman who pulled the trigger. The threat is gone. But it doesn't feel that way. It feels like he planned this too. Like even now, somewhere in the system, he's still one step ahead. And I don't know how long it will be before that feeling goes away. Or if it ever will.